स्वहतसवितुर्वरेण्यं भृगो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात् ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः. Sai Ram, brothers and sisters, now I am give you another very important video on Satya Sai Baba's Sai Gita. Please watch this and spread to many people. Free yourself from all bondage. If an individual is bound by a golden chain, will he be happy in that situation? No. Bondage remains bondage, be it from a chain made of gold or one made of copper or iron. So even a pure, calm nature causes bondage, and in the end, you have to get rid of this also. You must free yourself from all bondage, but until you reach divinity, you need the pure, calm, harmonious quality. Once you merge in the Lord, there are no more distinguishing qualities of any kind. In that state, the question of the three qualities does not arise at all. When you have offered up everything and become one with the Lord, you rise above these attributes and become totally free of all change. The Gita has taught that in order to control the mind, constant practice and renunciation are essential. Practice does not refer to just the observance of daily religious rituals. Practice means using the body, using the tongue, and using the mind in such a way that you do not develop attachment. Practice means orienting your whole life towards the one goal of reaching the divinity. Every word you utter, every thought you think, and every deed you perform should be pure and associated with the truth. This is the essence of all austerities. Truth and purity are the real instruments for success on the spiritual path. My wish is that you develop these noble qualities and thereby sanctify your life. Time wasted is life wasted. The Lord declared in the Gita, whoever remembers me is very dear to me. Therefore, remember the Lord always, offer Him your mind and your will. Surrender everything to Him and you will quickly reach Him. Embodiments of love. In the Gita, the Lord taught that joy and sorrow, cold and heat, profit and loss, criticism and praise must be faced with an equal mind. This equanimity of mind is one of the most important attributes of a true devotee. There are many other attributes of a true devotee, but these are all contained into principal qualities. Discipline and renunciation. Discipline refers to the three types of penance: bodily penance, mental penance, and vocal penance. Renunciation refers to understanding the defects in objects and living a life which does not get attached to these things. In other words, living as a witness. If you can incorporate these two important qualities, discipline and renunciation, in your daily life, then there will be no need for any other spiritual practice. Start your spiritual practice when you are young. If you want to develop these two qualities, you have to start in your childhood and use this early period of your life in a sacred and ennobling way. In the world today, many people undertake spiritual practice only when they reach old age, after they have thoroughly enjoyed the objects of luxury and have become disgusted and exhausted by worldly pleasures. They consider embarking on the spiritual path, having spent their lives concentrating on sense objects, on family life, on children, on wealth, on properties, on name and fame. They become disillusioned in old age. They realize that there is nothing true in these things and that peace of mind and lasting joy cannot come from the phenomenal world and from worldly pursuits. After they come into the evening of their lives and are haunted by the emptiness of their experiences, they begin to do spiritual exercises. But in old age, when you are suffering from all sorts of physical and mental weaknesses, it will be very difficult to practice and live a rigorous spiritual life. Even then, you should not be discouraged thinking that there is no possibility for spiritual advancement in old people. Opportunities for spiritual experiences are certainly available to them. Instead of not thinking of the Lord at all, it is far better to think of Him at least in old age. When it comes to thinking of the Lord, there are no restrictions whatsoever with respect to time, place, or age. That's why the divine teacher has declared in the Gita, at all times, in all places, think of me. But he has also declared that the best opportunity for practicing these spiritual exercises in a determined way is in your youth. When your physical strength, the strength of your sense organs, and your mental strength are there in abundance, that is the best time to undertake spiritual exercises. The process is something like reserving a plane ticket before embarking on a journey. When you arrive at the airport, after first having reserved your place, you are likely to proceed smoothly with your journey. On the other hand, if you go to the airport only at the last minute without having a reservation, you may not get on the plane. It all depends on chance. You may end up having to go by a slower way or you may have to delay your journey. It is the same way with people who start thinking about spiritual matters in the old age. They may or may not be able to advance spiritually in a significant way at that point in their lives. But if the same individuals had in earnest undertaken spiritual exercises from an early age, they would be sure to achieve spiritual success in their old age. Do not waste your youth. If you waste your time enjoying the pleasures of life during your youth, wasting the power of your body and your sense organs, then if you want to reach your goal of merging with the Lord in your old age, you may not get the chance. There is no meaning whatsoever in serving delicious food to the demons, and then when they have consumed everything worthwhile, offering the leftover to God. Do you think that will please God? No. After all, your powers and capacities have been dissipated by the demons of anger, greed, lust, and pride. You try to offer God what little is left, but that offering will not be accepted by Him. In this context, the Gita has emphasized that your youth is a very precious period which has to be used with great care to advance your spiritually. When you have had something for a long time and taken it for granted, you may not appreciate its real value. It is only after losing it that you truly appreciate it. As long as you have your eyes, you do not know the value and the preciousness of your eyes. You only realize the importance of vision when you lose your eyesight. In the same way, when you have good health and all your faculties are in their full glory, you do not understand their true value. After having lost your health and when your faculties have become impaired, then you repeat and lament that all your capacities and powers are gone. But lamenting at that point is useless. During youth, you have allowed the bad habits and bad traits to become your great friends and get deeply rooted within you. You squandered and misused the capacities that have been given to you, blindly following your sensual desires. Later, these bad habits and bad traits become your principal enemies in old age. Most young people do not use their powers of discrimination properly. They do not try to sort out who is their true friend, who is their foe. If you follow only your senses and lower instincts and have not developed your intelligence to understand the meaning of life, then is there any reason for calling you a human being? Should you not be called a mere animal? Once you understand the significance of human life and fill yourself with the noble qualities of a human being, your senses will no longer be able to confuse you. Use your body for the sake of God. These days you are using for the sake of the body. You are not using your body to worship God. You pray to God for good health whenever you are sick, but you are not using all your physical strength and faculties when you have them to worship God. You imagine that there will be plenty of time later on to engage in worship and you go on wasting your time. You think that after retirement you can begin to take up the contemplation of God and do spiritual exercises. Perhaps you feel that it is better in the meantime to enjoy life and to enjoy the objects of the world while you are still young, but how can you start thinking of God when you become old after having lost all your capacities? If you are not using all your physical powers and capacities for the worship of the Lord now and later, it will be too late. When children make fun of you and call you old monkey, will you then have the strength to start an intensive spiritual life? When your hair is grey, when you are hardly able to move, when you are barely able to see, when all the sense organs have become weak, will you then be able to use them for the worship of the Lord? No, it will not be possible. The scriptures have very forcefully described the futility of starting your spiritual practices only during your last days. It is stated that when the god of death finds you and shouts, "Come, come," when your own relations are anxious to get the corpse out of the house, when they are all shouting, take it away," and when your wife and children are there sobbing, can you think of the Lord at that time? Can you tell your relative to stop crying? Can you tell that to wait a little bit because you want to think of the Lord for a few moments? You should accumulate in youth all the things which are necessary to lay a strong foundation for a happy future. Do you recall the think that it is possible to think of the Lord only after you retire? No, it is not possible. You should be fully engaged in regular spiritual practice before retirement, but instead you immerse yourself in the business and continue with that even after retirement, or waste your time going to clubs and in many other ways dissipate your precious life. You cannot start spiritual life when death is at the door. A housewife once asked her husband, "At least now in your old age, should not you be thinking of God? You never took the time to do it before during your busy period. Please do it now." The businessman replied, "I have no time even to die, no less to think of God." But do you think that death will not come to someone who says that he has no time to die? Will death come only according to his wishes? No, time waits for no one. Therefore, while you still have time, you have to make use of it in a proper way. The enemy called death, along with his soldiers called disease, will be waiting to wage war against your body. Men die most pitifully and helplessly during such periods of time when they are attacked by disease and death. But no army can attack those who have won the grace of the Lord. Therefore, during your youth itself, you have to earn the grace of God and equip yourself to meet all the challenges of your enemies when they come to lay siege on you. Above all, you must be firmly convinced in your own heart that this journey of life is going to be a long one. Any other journey, whether it be by bus, train, or plane, lasts for only a short time. You need not make too many preparations for this. But for this journey of life, you must equip yourself for all the contingencies of a long journey. Otherwise, you will be suffering greatly later on when you are faced with real problems and real troubles. In the compartment of freight trains used to transport chemically active substances, a stamp is placed at the time of manufacture giving a particular date in the future. It is the day when that container has used up its normal service life and must be returned to the depot for recycling. It is the same for the container that is your body. Here also a return date has been written on it by God Himself. You do not remember that you have to go back. People totally forget this all important truth. If you really want to enjoy all the pleasures of life at a later stage than during youth, you have to earn the grace of God. In the course of human life, the early periods of childhood and youth are very important. Not realizing the great value of this period of your life, you waste your time during youth. You use a golden cup adorned with precious gems and jewels for a low, mean, contemptible purpose. To feed the fire of your sense, you are using costly sandalwood as fuel. The vessel is very precious, the fuel is very precious, but the food you are choosing to cook with their help is insipid and worthless. Such a precious body and such a sacred fuel is being squandered away for the sake of enjoying useless, trivial things in life. Things without value are put in this precious vessel and used for sordid enjoyment. You are using a golden plow to plow the field of your heart, but you produce nothing but useless weeds. True human life involves discrimination and renunciation. The field of your heart is most precious and sacred. The divine teacher has declared that even that field belongs to him. The Lord has declared that he is both the field and its knower. He is the true owner of your heart and your body. He has identified himself with them. What are you doing with this sacred heart and body? You are using a golden plow to raise useless crops of sensual pleasures. Any person who is aware of the preciousness of the heart and the preciousness of the feelings that are there will not misuse these things. Life must be used for good, for the welfare of others, for reaching the sacred goal and for treading the sacred path, and for bringing about a shining effulgence in the heart and mind. You have to use this life for merging yourself in the divinity. Only then will you have the authority to say that your life has become sanctified and genuine. It is said that it is difficult and almost impossible to get a human life. What is so special about human life? Why is it so difficult to get all the pleasures which animals and birds enjoy? You can also enjoy in that case. What is the meaning in declaring that human life is so very precious, so very special? It is because you have the ability to discriminate between right and wrong. It is because you have the ability to give up attachment and hatred. Therefore, you have to use the intelligence given to you to make a distinction between the animal way of life and human way of life. By not discriminating between the true self and the lower self, by not developing your higher intelligence, you become the victim of agitation and sorrow. You cannot find inner peace because you do not follow the right path. With the firm determination, young people need to undertake the three types of penance physical, mental, and vocal and thereby set an example for the world. You have to use the active principle within you to subdue the slothful principle, and then you have to use the serene principle to subdue the active principle. It is impossible to be serene as long as your heart is filled with the slothful and active natures. When the head is empty, you can hope to fill it with some good ideas. But if your head is already full of all sorts of useless thoughts, how is it possible to fill up with anything sacred and great? You have filled your head with all sorts of unnecessary worldly stuff. You will have to first empty all that out. Only then will you be able to fill your head with sacred feelings and sacred thoughts. Keep your concentration unwaveringly on God. Many of you are following a meaningless path and living a meaningless life. You cry when you are born and you cry when you die. In between, through your whole span of life, you go on crying for useless things. Do you cry when you see the decline of righteousness? That is what you should cry for. That is what you should use your strength and abilities for, to correct the decline of righteousness and to help heal the wounds that follow its decline. What is right living? It is the constant remembrance and uninterrupted contemplation of the Lord. It is discharging your daily duties, thinking of the Lord. The Gita has not taught that you should give up your family, that you should give up your wealth and property and then go to the forest. No, take care of your family, do your duty, but keep your concentration constantly on the Lord. Whatever you do, do not forget your goal. If you give it up, you will get lost and stay onto the wrong path. Your divine goal must be solidly set in your mind, keeping your goal in view. Perform your daily duties. Do not allow any flaw or defect to taint your words. Always adhere to truth. Some people think that in time of difficulty they can modify the truth. They may even feel that it is necessary to tell untruth sometimes, but in difficult situations you can develop sufficient presence of mind to keep silent instead of telling either the truth or an untruth. If you tell the truth, tell it dearly and sweetly. Do not tell the truth in an unpleasant way or tell an untruth in a pleasant way. Whenever there comes a difficult testing time, you should learn how to avoid compromising situations without ever telling an untruth. In certain circumstances, you will have to conduct yourself in an extremely careful way. You should know how to use words without hurting people. It has been said that he is the fortunate one who knows how to talk without ever hurting anyone. You should neither hurt others nor be hurt by others. Here is a small story. Be steady in your practice. A housewife attended a series of meetings at which a spiritual teacher was expounding the scriptures. She was concentrating and listening with great attention to everything that was being said. One day, the speaker recounted the story of Rama and Sita, and in that connection declared that for a wife, the husband was the only goal in life. He said, it is the responsibility of the wife to satisfy her husband and make him happy. Always treat the husband as God. The housewife, after hearing all this, went back home. She was so impressed by this discourse that she resolved to put into practice immediately all that she had learned. As soon as the husband returned home for his midday meal, she took a container of water and poured it over his feet, thinking that she was worshipfully serving her husband thereby. The husband was confused and flabbergasted. He entered the house and sat down to dry his feet, but before he could do so, she insisted on doing it for him. After seeing all this, the husband went into his office and rang up the doctor. Her husband did not know that his wife had been attending the discourses. The doctor came and decided to give her some sleeping pills. He said that it looked like an attack of hysteria, but after a rest of 1 or 2 days, she probably would be all right. The husband ate his meal and told his wife to go and have some rest. Then he went to his office. His wife went right back again to the meeting to hear the next lecture. That afternoon, the speaker was explaining the delusory relationship which exists between husband and wife. He said, who is husband? Who is wife? Nothing is permanent. All these things are just temporary and transient. In truth, nothing exists. Then he added, God alone is true. He is the only real truth. The housewife went back home and sat in her shrine room. That evening, the husband came back from his office half an hour early, thinking that his wife may not be well and perhaps he could help her in some way. He knocked on the house door and asked her to kindly open it. From the shrine room she answered, "There is no mother, there is no father, there is no house, there is nothing, not even a husband." He was quite alarmed by this behavior, but somehow he got her to open the door. When he came into the house, he went straight to the telephone and called the psychiatrist. The psychiatrist came and examined her in detail. He gave his diagnosis. He said that after all this listening to these discourses, she had developed some peculiar attitude. But if she could be kept at home, she would soon get over them. All arrangements were made to keep her from going to the lectures. Everyone was informed. The driver, as well as every servant of the house, was told not to let her go there. After these restrictions had been put on her by doctor's order, she did not go to the lecture for 2 days and she started behaving in a normal way again. So the detachment she had developed was only temporary and superficial. It did not last. Now the husband was happy. The normal daily routine resumed. After a week, this lady went again to the place where the lectures were being given. On that particular day, the speaker was expounding the teachings of the Gita. He explained that whenever one uses words, one should tell the truth and one should not tell it in a compromising way. She heard this and returned home. Her husband told her that there was a marriage reception that day and asked her to join him. She got ready and went there with her husband. The marriage ceremony started. There was a tradition in those parts which called for the auspicious necklace that is worn by the bride to be taken to every elder who then touches it and blesses it. The father of the bride came to this lady, recognized her, and asked her, "How is your mother? Is everything all right?" These questions were a matter of courtesy. Exchanging a few words with her whilst he held out the sacred necklace, asking her to touch it and bless it. She answered, "My mother is doing fine. She is quite all right. But you know, a week ago my mother-in-law died quite suddenly and her body was taken to the cremation ground the following day." The neighbor who was sitting next to her told her, "Why did you have to say such an inauspicious thing while touching and blessing this necklace, which is meant to impart a long and happy life to the new bride and her future family?" The housewife replied, "Should I tell a lie just for the sake of this necklace? No, I will never tell a lie. It is a fact that my mother-in-law died last week and that the body was cremated the next day." One intelligent young lady sitting nearby told her, "Mother, certainly you should speak the truth, but you should also be aware of the circumstances and think through what is appropriate before you say anything. Tell the truth, but use di- discretion in your words. Whenever you hear a spiritual teachings on a particular day, you will go about implementing it with a great deal of fervor and conviction, but only on that very day. But this is not the correct way to pursue your spiritual studies. You should use your intellect to understand the context in which you find yourself before you use words in a given situation. Whenever you do a particular thing or say something, you should know that truth is the means for reaching your ultimate goal. The tongue should not be tainted by untruth. The body should not be tainted by violence. The mind should not be stand by bad thoughts and bad feelings. It is only when you sanctified all these three, the tongue, the body, and the mind, and bring them into harmony, that you will be able to get the sacred vision of the Lord. Students should be extremely careful in telling the truth. They should certainly tell the truth, but be careful not to go on talking and hurting others unnecessarily. Have control over your tongue. Whenever there is a misunderstanding with someone, if you tell him all his defects with the justification that everything you are telling is true, then there are bound to be complications later. You should never hate others. When you have love in your heart, your words will naturally be very sweet. Even if anger develops, it will be of a fleeting nature. There are four types of people. The anger of a person who is of a serene nature will be very short-lived. It recedes immediately. The Gita has declared such a one as a great soul. The second type will have this anger for a number of minutes, but it will soon fade away. The third category of person will have this anger continuously all day long. The one in the lowest category will have this anger throughout his life. The four types of anger. The divine teacher has told this in another way. The anger of a good person is like writing on water. It is not at all permanent. The anger of the second category of person is like writing on sand. It will be washed away one moment or another. The third type of person's anger is something like writing on the stone. Over a long period of time, it will be eroded away. But the anger of the fourth type of person is like writing on a steel plate. It will never go away unless you melt it and cast it anew. Only when you put it into the fire will get destroyed. Only through intense transformation is there any possibility of changing it. Things which are highly relevant in day-to-day life can be found in the Gita. It is very difficult for you to take all the teachings that are in the Gita and practice all of them, but you should at least take those teachings which are directly applicable to you, to your present life, and put them into practice. That way you reap immediate benefits and will rapidly progress towards your ultimate spiritual goal. Remember God, forget the world. Of all the precious things in the world, time is the most precious. Think carefully how you are spending your precious time. Your primary duty as a human being is to offer your body, your work, and your time to the Lord, who is the very embodiment of time. Embodiments of love. Health which is spoiled and lost can sometimes be recovered with the help of medicine, but time which has gone by is lost for good. For good. There is no way for it to ever come back and be used again. You have to make every effort to use this precious time in a sacred manner. Time is infinite. If it goes on forever, but the time which is allotted to you is only a microscopically small fraction of that. Many of you are wasting your lives by thinking that the phenomenal world is real. As a result, you are using all your limited time for enjoying the pleasures of the world. If you reflect even for a moment on that you have achieved and how you have spent your priceless time, you will be very sorry to find that you have used it in such a wasteful manner. Find out who you truly are. You cry when you are born because you have come into this world without knowing who you are and why are you here. Your cry is an anguished plea to find out who am I. If you waste your entire life on only your physical existence, when will you ever be able to understand who you really are, truly are? There is a deeper significance contained in your life than merely caring for the body. You have to start your life with who am I? And you have to end your life, I am that, I am God. You have to recognize that you yourself are the divinity and your life in the supreme peace which is your true reality. Unfortunately, most of you concentrate your attention only on the worldly enjoyments you can obtain, aspiring for immediate pleasures, and do not think all about the future consequences that will follow from your actions. When a frog sees some flies or worms in front of it, it becomes so happy and enthusiastic that it would like to immediately jump on them, swallow them whole, and enjoy them. But behind the frog there is a snake lying in wait, ready to catch the frog and eat it up. The snake is very happy to have found its meal in the form of this frog, which for the moment is preoccupied with its own enjoyment. The snake does not know that a hawk is hovering overhead, ready to snatch the snake up in its claws. The hawk is so joyous at the idea of grabbing and consuming this unsuspecting snake that it does not pay any attention to the hunter lurking in the bush ready to shoot it. In the same way, you are also thinking only of fulfilling your desires and anticipating the comforts that you see before you, not thinking at all what is stalking behind you, waiting to pounce on you. You are wasting your time without realizing the harm that may befall you on in the future. You cannot know what time, in that place, and in what circumstances danger may present itself and come your way. Therefore, you have to sanctify the time at your disposal now and use it properly, recognizing its sacredness and preciousness. Youth is the most precious period of life. You may be prepared to offer millions of dollars to buy whatever comes your way, but no amount of money can be paid to ever get back the time what has already been spent. Youth is the most precious, the most sacred period of human life. It offers you a golden opportunity to properly utilize your time and sanctify your life. In human life, the time of youth, like the waters that flow in the river, cannot be turned back again. Today's youth should be recognizing this fact. Utilize your time in a proper way, and you will gain fulfillment in life. Always today's youth should recognize this fact. Utilize your time in a proper way and you will gain fulfillment in life. Always be aware of the many aspects of the wheel of today. Time. Realize how extremely important time is. Think ahead as to what is likely to happen in the future and keep the goal of your life constantly in view. In the chapter on devotion in the Gita, it is said that time is the most important element in your life. You must use your time wisely. Your time should be used to reach God. The divine teacher taught in the Gita that even if you have not reached a highly developed detachment from worldly objects, if you use your time in constant awareness of the Lord, performing all your works and duties as worship and offering everything you do to the Lord, then you will have a blessed life. Krishna told Arjuna, do your duty, Arjuna. If you have to fight, then fight, but fight thinking of me. That way you will incur no sin. If you have offered everything to me and have me steadily in your heart, you will not suffer any of the consequences of your actions. You are not being asked to go to the forest and do penance or to give up all your relations. You need not give up your family, your house, and all your properties. Whatever you see, whatever you say, whatever you hear, whatever you think, whatever you do it as my work and offer it to me. Offer your mind and your intelligence fully to me. That is the proper way to sanctify your time. If you conduct your life in this way, you have my assurance you will be saved. Develop self confidence and a firm resolve. Unfortunately, today one does not find this capacity for renunciation, this firmness of purpose, this deep level of faith and commitment, this willingness to completely offer up mind and intellect to God. Most people today do not have a vision that is steeped in faith, but you should develop such a strong faith. You cannot hope to know what kind of life you will be living in the future, or under what circumstances and in what place you will find yourself. No one knows these things but the Lord. If you offer everything to Him, He will protect you in all situations. Such a deep level of communication, renunciation requires strong self confidence and a clear of vision. Whatever work you do, you must have a great determination and a firm resolve. Without this, you cannot achieve even the smallest thing. A small bird laid its eggs on the shore of the ocean. It wanted to have a comfortable life. A number of times the waves came and washed the eggs away into the ocean. The bird became discouraged and also a little desperate. For every time it laid its eggs, the ocean washed them away. In time it became very angry with the ocean. Now you might think, what can such a small bird do to the huge ocean? But it entertained no such doubts. It did not think of it itself as just a little bird unable to do anything against the vast ocean. No. On the contrary, this small bird took a firm resolve and decided to it was going to empty all the waters of the mighty ocean. That was its vow to which it struck with a great determination. Night and day it stood at the edge of the ocean, dipped its head into the sea, took a little water into its beak, flew to the other side of nearby hill, released the water from its beak, and thus drop by drop resolved to empty out the whole ocean. It believed that ultimately it would manage in this way to conquer the ocean itself. When it realized that it would not get very far on its own, it sought the help of Garuda, the eagle, which is Lord Vishnu's vehicle and which is endowed with divine power. With the help of Garuda, it was able to earn the grace of Lord Vishnu. Now the ocean became very frightened and humbly apologized to the little bird. The ocean assured the little bird that its eggs would never again be destroyed by its waves and that it would be most welcome to nest on its shores without disturbance. How small was this little bird and how vast was the ocean. You also think of yourself as so small, but you should never get desperate and lose hope. You should not get dispirited thinking that you are so insignificant, whereas God is infinite and all powerful. You might wonder, why would God bother to pay any attention to me? What could I possibly offer him which he would be happy to accept when the entire cosmos is already his? If even angels and divine beings cannot see him, how can I ever hope to behold his form? But such self demeaning and belittling thoughts will not get you very far. As long as you think this way, you will not be able to gain the grace of the Lord and be fit to serve him. Give no room for such displays of weakness. You have to establish the Lord in your heart and say to him, Beloved Lord, I know you are residing in all the universe, but you are also here in my heart. With all my power, I will keep you here firmly established within me. You are, it is true, the biggest of the big, but you are also the smallest of the small. In that small form, you are ever residing in my heart. If you have such a firm faith in yourself and a firm resolve to establish the Lord unalterably in your heart, then you will surely attain him and thereby gain all the strength of Lord. Birth is sorrowful, life is sorrowful, and death is sorrowful. Gautama Buddha, with a firm resolve and a lot of penance, was able to achieve the state of enlightenment. One day, after coming to know that Buddha was begging for alms, his father sent this message to Buddha: "O my child, your grandfather was a king, your father is a king, and you are also a king. I have heard that you are a king coming from such a noble lineage, have been begging for your food. There is no dearth of property or wealth in this kingdom. There is no shortage of any luxury. You can have anything you wish. I am suffering untold pain knowing that you, who can enjoy all the luxuries and comforts of a king's palace, have taken to begging and that you are lying down on the hard ground living an uncomfortable beggar's life. Please come back to the palace. I will welcome you and make all the proper arrangements for your return. The kingdom itself will be yours." Buddha, who heard all these things with the total detachment, replied to the person who brought the message, Please tell the king, yes, my grandfather was a king, my father is a king, I too was a king, but now I have renounced this world and I believe that my real parents are renunciates and that my true ancestors are also renunciates. If you want me to come back, you must first answer these questions. Do you have the power to save me from death? Can you keep disease away from me and guarantee to keep me in sound health? Do you have the capacity to prevent old age and senility from descending on me? Do you have the power to free me from all these evils? If you can give me the correct answer to these questions, then I will immediately come back to the palace. Buddha saw that birth was sorrowful, that life was sorrowful and the end was also sorrowful. He replied to his father in the correct way. After having seen all the sorrows of life and after having watched so many people suffering, he could not continue to wallow in ignorance and illusion. That would have been sheer folly. Buddha life can serve as an important lesson to you. In the limited time given to you, you have to realize your true nature. That is the real objective of human life. Your body is composed of the five elements, and someday it is going to perish. The indweller of your body is the only permanent entity. When you inquire into truth, you will realize that there is nothing like old age and there is nothing like death for the indwelling self. If you could understand that this indweller, who is your own reality, is the divine itself in all its fullness, then you will know the truth and enjoy infinite peace. The field and the knower of the field. Another way that the divine teacher spoke of the body and its indweller was in terms of the field and knower of the field. By the knower is meant the one who is conscious and filled with the highest knowledge, whereas the field is without such consciousness and knowledge. What is this field which is devoid of highest knowledge? It is the body with its gross and subtle aspects. It is the dwelling place of the Lord. Know that the Lord, who has all knowledge and wisdom, reside in this field of the body. It is his residence here on earth. In your day-to-day life, you refer to your body as my body. In other words, you knowledge that you are not the body, but this body is yours. It belongs to you. Similarly, the indweller considers that he is not the field, but that the field belongs to him. When you say this is mine, then you are declaring that you and the object are different. When you state this is my handkerchief, you are asserting your separateness from the handkerchief. It is the something different from you. When you say, this is my body, it means that you are distinct from your body. In the same way, when the Lord declares that the field is His, then He is free to give it up any time He wishes. The body is given to you in order that you may realize who you truly are, in order that you may recognize its indweller. Without a body, you would not be able to know Him. You will not be able to perform any activity and follow any spiritual path. All your work, both worldly and spiritual, can only be performed with the help of the body. The body consists of 20 principles. These are the five organs of perception, the five organs of activity, the five vital airs, and the five seats. When you add to these the lower mind, the power of discrimination, the seat of feelings and remembrance in the heart, and the ego together with the indwelling self, then the total comes to 25 principles which comprise an individual. This knowledge of the body and the indwelling spirit relates to the path of wisdom. The whole world is illusion. Foolish ones who are born in illusion and grow up in illusion never recognize illusion for what it is. The whole world is illusion. All attachments are illusion. Family life is illusion. Death is illusion. All that you see and think is illusion. This life itself is illusion. Where are all those kings and emperors who were so proud of their accomplishments? They have all been ground under the wheel of time. Days, months, years, and eras have all merged into one another. Time is one continuous flow, and in this flow, everything and everyone every object and every person is being washed away. A thing which is itself being washed away in the flow of time cannot become the sport for another thing which is also being washed away. He can save the time. The only permanent entity who is not being washed away by time and who can take care of all is the Lord. He alone can protect everyone. He is the stable bank for this unending river of time. Hold on to Him. That is the secret of life. That is the mark of a true human being. Believe in the Lord and do not believe in the world. That is the right way to live your life and enjoy it. Always remember these three principles. In the first place, do not forget the Lord. In the second place, do not believe in the world. And in the third place, never be afraid of death. These are the three guiding principles for all humanity. In the Gita, you will find it 64 qualities given as the attributes of a true devotee. It is impossible for any one individual to have all these attributes. If you can practice one or two of these, it is enough. Have firm faith in the Lord. Once you have developed a deep faith, you do not need anything more. In a matchbox, there may be 50 matchsticks. If you want fire, you can strike one stick. That will be enough. You need not strike all the 50 matchsticks. In the same way, out of the 64 attributes, if only one single attribute is practiced to perfection, that will be enough. The most important attribute is selfless love. Swami has often said, love is God and God is love. Live in love. If you live in love and become immersed in the divinity, the Lord will take care of everything in your life. Krishna said to Arjuna, when you have complete faith in me, when you are filled with devotion and leave everything to me, you will be very dear to me. The four types of devotees. True devotion does not merely refer to the performance of various religious rituals like singing devotional songs, repeating incantations, engaging in silent or communal prayers, or sitting for meditation. Devotion refers to this deep, unshakable faith in the Lord. There are four types of devotees: the seekers of boons to relieve their suffering, the seekers of blessings for a full and happy life, the inquirers into the deep meaning of life, and the knowers of the highest spiritual wisdom. The first type is one who prays to the Lord when he is in difficulty or undergoing trials and tribulations. It is only at such time that he thinks of the Lord and worship him. The second type is one who entreats the Lord for the blessings of the wealth, position, and power. He prays to the Lord for progeny and long life and yearns to gain houses, property, cattle, gold, wealth, and such things to serve his fellow man. Most people hankers after worldly boons, not realizing that true wealth is wisdom, that real property is a noble character, that the most valuable jewel is to be immersed in God's love. They are anxious to acquire worldly objects but do not understand the subtle meaning and deeper significance of all these outer symbols of worldly wealth. The third type of devotee is never ever engaged in enquiry into truth. He constantly seeks to know where is God, who is God, how can I reach God, what is my relationship to God, who am I? When you enter this stage, you become engaged in all these inquiries in order to gain spiritual knowledge. In the first place, you must try to find out who am I? Where did this world come from? What is my goal? You puzzle over these three important queries and try to gain some understanding. You approach great people, listen to their teachings, serve them, and study the sacred scriptures. Through this process, indirect knowledge gets turned into direct knowledge as the teachings you have heard and studied become your direct inner experiences. Finally, when you have fully absorbed the teachings within yourself, you leave this stage behind and become the fourth type of devotee, the highest knower of truth, the one of abiding wisdom. This wisdom is true spiritual knowledge. The transcendental knowledge, it refers to the experience of unity, the experience of the one without a second. Dwelling only on external things will cause you endless sorrow. If you base your experiences on worldly knowledge alone, you will have to suffer the reactions that result from this knowledge. For example, suppose you hit a table very hard and feel a sense of pride in doing this. You can boast that you have given it a good smack and that you surely must have hurt it with your blow. But immediately afterwards, to your dismay, you discover that the object has hit you back with the same intensity and you end up being equally hurt by it. In knowledge of the world, there will always be this response. Whatever you do will react back on you. Whatever you say will be resound back to you. Whatever you think will reflect back to you. Everything in the world involves reaction, reflection, and resound. But in the spiritual domain, there is no reaction, no reflection, and no resound. Within this domain, there is only transcendental knowledge. That is the truth. Knowledge. There you will find nothing separate, no object which can react, nothing that can reflect or resound, because in the spiritual domain there will be no other. There all is one. Whenever there is a second entity, there will be a wish to either possess it or to escape it. Or other words, there will arise a feeling of desire or a feeling of fear. But when you are immersed in real knowledge, you will experience nothing else and no one else. There will be no second, then neither desire nor fear can arise. What state can best be described as wisdom, the highest knowledge? In that exalted state, you do not see anything separate from self, and you will not hear anything separate from self. You will only be immersed in supreme bliss. This is the external joy of divine. The story of the wealthy man and his four wives. There is a little story which illustrates the four types of devotion that have been discussed here. Once a wealthy man who had four wives had to go abroad for some important work. He spent a few months in a foreign country. Before he returned home, he wrote a letter to each of his wives. In the letter, he mentioned that he would be coming home in a few weeks, and if there was anything they wanted from that particular country, they could send a list and could be glad to bring back the various and he would be glad to bring the various things to them. His first wife was an unhappy lady. She was suffering from many ailments. She sent the husband a list of medicines, explaining that her health was not good and that she would like to have a number of foreign medicines which would help her feel better. His second wife had a great many desires. She wrote, "Dear husband, please bring me some fine jewels, some silk saris, and all the latest fashionable articles that are available there." He received her letter and arranged to procure those items for her. The third wife had a strong spiritual inclination. She wrote to the husband asking for any good books that were available in that country. Books which deal with the lives of great saints, depicting their life experiences. She was always looking for a good spiritual book that would inspire her in her own spiritual aspirations. And so she asked her husband to see if he could find such books and bring them back for her. His fourth and favorite wife wrote, "Dearest one, I do not need anything for myself. I'll be very happy when I know that you have come back home safe and sound." When he returned home, he brought with him whatever they had asked for. The first wife got the latest medicines and tonics from abroad. The second wife got beautiful jewels and exquisitely textured silk saris. To the third wife, the husband brought the finest copies of the scriptures and other holy books. And then he went to stay with the fourth wife who had written, "Please come home safely. I want nothing else." She only wanted him. The other three wives became jealous of the favorite one since the husband had gone to stay with her. They sent messages asking, after such a long time without seeing us, you have not even once come to our house to visit us. What is the reason for this? The husband replied, I have given each of you exactly what you asked for. One of you asked for medicine, I brought them. One of you asked for the latest jewels, I brought them. One of you asked for sacred books, I brought them. One of you wanted only me, so now she has me. God answers everyone's request. This husband is the Lord Himself, and the four wives are the four types of devotees. The Lord will give you exactly what you ask for. If you ask only for Him, then He will come and reside in your heart. God is the wishful, fulfilling tree, the tree that bears every conceivable kind of truth. He will answer everyone's request. He is omniscient. He is everywhere. He knows what you want and He will give it to you. In fact, this whole world is really a wish fulfilling tree. The Lord uses the world to satisfy your desires and take care of all your wants. There are very few people who understand this. He is another small story to illustrate this. There was a traveler who had been walking for a long time in the hot sun. Finally, he found a nice big tree and stopped there to take rest. He was very tired after his long walk in the heat, and now the shade of the tree was giving him great comfort. While sitting under the tree, he got thirsty and said to himself, how nice it would be if I could have a glass of cold water. Seemingly out of nowhere, a tumbler of fresh water appeared. He was sitting beneath a wish-fulfilling tree and did not know it. After drinking the water, a second thought came to his mind. How nice it would be if I could have a soft pillow and a comfortable bed. Then I would really be able to rest nicely. Immediately a bed and a pillow came given by the Lord Himself. Now the traveler was comfortable. After getting the bed and the pillow, he thought how very nice and comfortable this bed and pillow are. Now, if only I could have my wife here, then how perfect everything would be. His wife immediately came. As soon as she appeared, he became very frightened because he was not sure. Is she really my wife or is the same demon impersonating my wife? The very moment this thought flashed through his mind, she returned into a demon. Now fear really overwhelmed him, and in terror he wondered, oh my, will this demon swallow me up? Immediately the demon pounced on him and swallowed him whole. The moral of the story is that when you are under a wish fulfilling tree, you must be very careful what you think. Whatever thoughts you have will surely come true. The entire world may be likened to a wishful, fulfilling tree. If you have good thoughts, you get good results. If you have bad thoughts, bad results will follow. Therefore, you should never harbor bad feelings or bad thoughts. That is why Swami has so often said, be good, do good, see good. That is the way to God. You are not mortal, you are immortal. The entire world is the creation of God and is penetrated by His will. Everywhere there is God. Do not have bad thoughts about anyone. Have complete control over your senses and think only good thoughts. Whether you are old or young, you should permit only good thoughts to come into your mind and always aspire to lead a good life. This is the real meaning of a human being. The word for human in Sanskrit is Nara, which stands for that which cannot be destroyed, that which will always come back to the Lord. Nara is the one who will not be ruined, who is immortal. The ancient scriptures have declared, you are not a mortal being, you are the child of immortality. A human being has also been called Manava. This refers the one who is without ignorance. But today you are all behaving in a foolish way. By your thoughts, words, and actions, you are not giving the proper value to the word human. It has been said that death is sweeter than the blindness of ignorance. You have to make ignorance flee away from you and never come back. If you want to drive away darkness, you must bring in the light. Where there is light, there can be no darkness. If you want to be free yourself from ignorance, you must acquire wisdom. When you have wisdom, ignorance can have no foothold on you and will be swept away. To gain wisdom, you must earn God's grace. A great poet sang, O Lord, if I have your grace, what is there to fear? What can I destiny? What can destiny ever do to me? Your life should not be ruled by lust, anger, greed, infatuation, pride, or jealousy. These are your enemies. They may be conquered and subdued. They are the darkness, the product of ignorance. Your life must be ruled by light and by wisdom. Your life must be based entirely on the grace of God. From this moment on, aspire for God's grace and gain wisdom. To earn God's grace, think of God everywhere, at all times, and in all circumstances. In this age of darkness, there is no greater spiritual practice than this. Engage yourself in the constant repetition of the sacred name of the Lord and keep Him permanently established in your heart of hearts. Thereby you will bless your life and set a sterling example for the rest of world. Thank you, dear, for watching this video. Please like